Good morning, Reverend Griffin. This is M.L. Curry with my 15 minutes on workers' compensation. As you know, I come to you every Monday morning via this station, and I bring you most of the time technical information about the rules of our workers' compensation, about the law, and how things are supposed to be done if you're trying to handle your own case, or if you're represented by an attorney and that person is handling your case. But sometimes I deviate from that and I bring clients of mine to help them to tell their story so that you can understand that your situation may be very similar to their situation. This morning I'm sitting with a client. His name is Daniel Cox, and I've been representing Mr. Cox since 2008. But before we go there, I want to welcome all of my followers who are following this program on my website, which is www.attymlcurry.net. I also want to welcome the followers who are following this program at ATTYML, and they may be following it on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Mr. Cox, sitting right to my left here, who were you working for back in 2000?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I was working for Dish Network.
All right.
I started with them December 4th of 2000.
All right. And what exactly did you do there? And what were your job titles and things like that?
Well, when I first got hired, I was just an installer.
Okay.
And then after I got my different levels of certification, I became a technician, and then a training tech.
Okay.
You know, where I would take guys out and teach them how to install dishes, and and then I also did troubleshooting. I guess as far as installing, I ran the gamut.
Okay. Now, you were working with them from 2000 up until just before July of 2007. And what started happening with you?
Well, my hands started feeling funny, and it started locking up on me.
Uh-huh.
And when I called my supervisor and told him what was going on, he just told me to take a break, because when it locks up, it's kind of like a Charlie horse.
Uh-huh. And what do you think was making it lock up? Like, what kind of activities were you doing that were making it lock up?
Well, we install a lot of cable, and we prep a lot of cable connections.
Okay.
And pushing them back and forth. But we also use a 14-volt hammer drill.
Okay.
Which is a lot of vibrating action, and sometimes that hammer drill, when you're going through brick, if it get caught, it'll snatch your wrist or arm or something. That's why you have to hold it tight.
Okay, so you're gripping and twisting.
Yeah.
You're gripping the hammer some of the time of the day, and this is like 8 hours a day, right?
More or less, but at the time we was working. Our shift was more or less. We did it from can to can't, but we was working at least 15 hours a day.
All right. So now it says here that your accident date, I remember, is July the 9th of 2007.
Yes, sir.
And when that occurred, that was when you got to the point where you had to report it to your supervisor, which was properly reported, and then it was also properly filed. And I've had people call my office here recently. As soon as you know that you had an injury on the job, you need to report it right then and there. Even if you had some symptoms before that you didn't really recognize, but once you know that the problem that you have is related to your work, you need to report that accident. You need to go into your supervisor, make sure that you and he fill out a DWC-1 form and you sign it, and then you yourself have to fill out a DWC-41 form, which of course you can get that from the Texas Department of Insurance Division of Workers' Compensation, or you can call my office at 713-222-2400, and we'll send the form to you. We need to make sure that you report your accident within 30 days of when you know you've been injured on the job. Now, Mr. Cox was injured. His injury date turned out to be July the 9th of 2007, and I understand that once that happened, you then continued to work for about how long?
Up until about September, and I was kind of on light duty.
Mm-hmm. Now that would be September of 2008.
Yeah.
Right. So that's like 14 months that he continued to work after his accident. But now I understand that right after the accident, you called your personal attorney.
Yes, sir.
And what happened with that?
Well, he didn't do workman's comp.
Okay.
But he recommended me to a friend of his that did workman's comp.
Okay.
And I went to him, and we signed the papers, and and he said he told me that I needed to go to find a doctor that can verify the fact that I have this problem.
Okay, so he just sent you out there to just find a doctor.
Yes, and when I found the doctor, matter of fact, for the lack of a better name, I went to the hand care center.
Okay.
And I got this proof, and I come back, but I never could get any response out of it. And when I called him, he wasn't in the office. When I went to his office, he was always with another client, and for about 2 months, this went on, and finally he just said, I can't do anything.
All right, and this was back in August of 2007, just after your accident date, and so that was the first lawyer that you went to, and he basically just sent you away.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then what happened?
And then I was watching TV, and I seen another attorney that they said they specialize in workman's comp case, and I called them, and they came out to the house, and they took a statement, and they did this and they did that, and they sent me to this clinic, and they started, and then all of a sudden he said, well, because your case is old, and you didn't, when you got the workman's comp denial, and you didn't appeal it or whatever, and I told him I did appeal it, but he said no, they don't have a record, but you got to do this, you got to do that, and we can't help you.
So basically, they sent you away.
Right.
So you had gone to 2 attorneys before you started listening to the radio.
Right.
And on the radio, which he was listening to KWWJ 1360, you happened to hear my program.
Yes, sir, because I do listen to Reverend Griffin, quite often, and for some reason I turned the radio on early, and that's when I heard you, and then I got the phone number and I called, and when I called, I did have to leave a voice message, but they called me right back.
And that was on or about October 2008. By the time Mr. Cox and I met, at that point in time, his accident, from the date of his accident of July 07 and the time that we met, 15 months had passed by. And so I told Mr. Cox that don't worry about it. You are going to have to be patient because you got a 15-month head start on me. But I started working on his case, and one of the first things that happened, he was working out with some doctors up on the airline, working with a Dr. Dean McMillan, who is now deceased, but we were able to use the fact that he was deceased to be able to change his doctor. Now, there are a number of different ways that you can get out from under the doctor that you're with. If you're with a company doctor, though, you need to make that change as soon as possible. You cannot make that change 15 months after your date of accident. So if you're one of these individuals who has just been injured recently and you're being treated by the company doctor, you need to make a change right away. And I suggest that you make a change to Total Health Care Management. Call them at 713-522-6911. And depending on where you live in the city, they have 4 different locations. One is out in Milan at Chimney Rock and Belford. They have one at 45 South at College and Airport. They have a location at 45 North, East Tidwell and Airline. Their principal offices are out west at 12,000 Richmond and Kirkwood. But all of those locations use the same number, 713-522-6911. And for those individuals who have not been receiving any benefits for a while, have the claim denied, they will provide transportation for you to get back and forth to the doctor. They provide chronic pain management for you, health and other nutritional products. Now, once we were able to change Mr. Cox from Dr. McMillan over to Total Health Care Management, this is October in 2008. He was still not receiving any benefits, and he was not receiving benefits by the time we were able to provide him with his first surgery, which occurred in September of 2009. By this time, I've been working on his case 11 months. He still is not receiving any benefits because, like I said, it takes time to get caught up. if you got a 15-month head start on me, it's going to take me a good while to resolve your case. And in his situation, we had to take his case all the way to trial, which we did in October of 2009. And of course, when we won, the insurance company then had to pay him back pay all the way back to October of 2008. So when they sent him a real fat check, he was very happy about that. And then he was receiving his weekly benefits from October 2008 up until recently here, October of 2010. But what happened then?
Well, after I had my surgery the first time, because I had to have two procedures, one on my hand and one on my elbow. I still wasn't getting any better.
Right.
So, and then after I made it known to the doctor that that they need to look at this thing another again. They looked at it and found out it was it was more to it than what they see. They sent me to get another ENT.
EMG.
EMG. Okay,
Right.
Yeah, EMG.
Right.
And they found something else was wrong with it, so they had to go back into it. And and it's been about a month now, and I tell you, it's feeling a whole lot better.
So basically what happened was Mr. Cox was talking with his doctors and letting him know that it wasn't as good as they thought it was. He then contacted my office and let me know that things were not going as well as I had expected them to go. So I had to change him from the orthopedic surgeon that he was with, which was a general orthopedic surgeon, to a hand specialist. And that hand specialist had to do a third surgery, which was just done back here January the 20th of 2011. Now, from October the 5th, though, of 2010, when he reached statutory MMI, the insurance company cut his benefits off again. So I had to get him over to the designated doctor back in November of 2010, which, was timely as far as that's concerned, but the designated doctor found that he was not at MMI and needed the surgery that he had in January. The problem with that was, although the designated doctor found him not at MMI, that was November of 2010, he had already reached statutory MMI in October, and the insurance company had cut his benefits off. So I had to send him back to the designated doctor a second time so that that designated doctor could revise his own report and find that Mr. Cox, after he was at statutory MMI, was at statutory MMI, and then also give him his impairment rating, which turned out to be 23%. So the insurance company had to reinstate his benefits again. Now, currently here in February of 2011, he is receiving his weekly benefits. He is post-surgery, and he's currently receiving his physical therapy over at the central office of Total Healthcare Management at 12,000 Richmond. During the process of his claim, he was also receiving his medication through IWP, which is Injured Workers Pharmacy, and having his MRIs done over at Memorial MRI, which is at 1241 Campbell Road. And if you are in that situation and your doctor wants to make sure that he gets his MRIs read correctly, send that person over to Memorial MRI. Their number is 713-461-3399. IWP's number is 281-753-6770. My number is 713-222-2400. And again, you can access this program until next Monday at www.attymlcurry.net. Now, we're just about out of time, and like I say, sometimes I bring you more technical information, but I think people enjoy hearing someone just like themselves who's going through this kind of thing. We're not through yet. Mr. Cox's claim is scheduled to last until October the 5th of 2015, which is 7 years, 8 months, and 2 weeks, and I will represent him for that entire period if that's necessary. So I want to wrap up and just say that I'm sure that Reverend Griffin is ready to start his feedback corner, and I want to wish everybody a good morning, and God bless you.
Good morning.